going round and round. The reeling and a rocking. What a crazy sound. Well, you never stop a rocking. Ooh, the moon went down.
Tonight on Friday Night Videos, your guest hosts are Paul Shaffer and the legendary Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. We'll have broadcast premieres from the Stones, the Bangles, plus the new video from the Karate Kid, the Moody Blues, and a Friday Night Videos exclusive as Keith and Paul and Marcus perform lots of great Stones hits, including a very special version of Sleep from the new Stones album. And now, Paul Shaffer and Keith Richards.
One of my favorite of your tunes is Under My Thumb. It's one that I play with my band a lot.
Yeah, I've heard it, man.
I really love that song because it's got that simple marimba riff and everything.
Yeah.
And it's got that interesting minor coloration to it. How did that thing come about?
Yeah, putting my finger on it's very difficult, but I've used it in loads of songs, and I've never really been able to say, oh,
the chord progression.
I got it from yeah. You know, I use it on Give Me Shelter too, and it crops up in loads. I think it's even one on the new album. It's like that, but it's that you know. The body and one straight from the heart. That's one. So
see, that's a current song, but it's got bump, bump, it's got a little jumping jack flash.
Yeah.
Rhythmically, jumping jack flash.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're trying to change the rhythms around, but certain. I mean, I just find myself, you know, working over those signals. There's still there, and I try and find as many songs as I can out of that. I find, not really consciously, but just, I find myself playing that sequence, and there's still room in there for, you know, to say other things in a different way.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more great music and the real story of how Keith first met Mick Jagger.
That.
I heard you met Mick Jagger on a train.
Yeah, I mean, once we'd left school, I hadn't seen him for about 4 years or so, and in the meantime, that's when I'd started, I was going to art school, and I'd picked up guitar, and I got heavily into Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters and stuff, you know, Jimmy Reed, and one day, there was Mick again, who I'd known for, you know, since he was, I think 4 years old was the time that we can remember. We can trace it back to there, you know, BC. But he was under his arm. He had his chess records, Chuck Berry albums.
He had a Chuck Berry album under his arm on the train.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of them, in fact. I was incredibly jealous. And so in other words, we re-met and found out that in the meantime, we both developed the same taste in music. And also, he'd been, you know, doing his little bit with some amateur band, you know, pretending to be Elvis and Buddy Holly like we all do.
We're doing.
Did.
Yeah.
And probably still do. And I just opened the door, I opened the carriage, got in the train, and there's Mick with these albums, so then we got to talking, and I wanted to know where he got them from, because they were American pressings, they weren't English. And since we'd been hanging around from 4 years old until we were 11, until we happened to go to different schools, it was one of those things where you can't deny it, it's one of this has to happen, But I wanted to know where he got the records, and he was into singing, and then, on the train ride, he found that I played a little guitar, so we got back together, and used to sort of drive our parents berserk.
Yeah.
And all that.
But it was a Chuck Berry record that let you know that you guys
Rocking
were
at the Hops.
on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about a song like 19th Nervous Breakdown, because we were talking about riffs and how you can base a whole song on a riff, and that's a song that's got about 5,000 riffs, all hooks, classic hooks, all put together. How do you come up with those? Where did 19th Nervous Breakdown come from?
I think I was really, at this time, I was scared I was going to forget them if I didn't, use them all at once.
All at once, yeah.
I mean,
well, that one's got, it's got a bass riff.
Yeah, boom, down. Courtesy of Bo Diddley. And,
what came from Bo Diddley, that thing?
Yeah, Diddley Daddy,
that tune, Diddley Daddy?
Yeah. And it was really like a kind of tribute.
And there's a thing that happens on the top.
Mr. Memory. Yeah, and then here comes your 19th.
Kind of a satisfaction thing.
Yeah. It was all, because it was all around the same time I was coming. It seemed sometimes that I kept rewriting Satisfaction. To me, it seemed like that. And they just kept piling out these riffs, and I thought, well, let's try and put as many into one song as possible. And
put too many in, you probably have a nervous breakdown or something.
Off my mind. Oh, baby, no, it's just that the heart of honky-tonk women. Give me a honky-tonk blues.
Videos right after this. A couple of weeks ago they had Little Richard on this show, and he talked about how when he went over to England, you guys were his opening act.
Being on the tour with myself and Bo Diddley and the Everly Brothers through England, Mick Jagger was opening the show with us. He had a van, he and Keith and the rest of the group, and they were sleeping in the van, and Mick Jagger started sleeping on our floor. It was the most terrifying moment of my life, really, I think. 6 weeks around England with Bo Diddley. The Everly Brothers were top of the bill, and Little Richard. We probably learnt more in those 6 weeks from Richard. We used to watch, we do our bit, and sort of slowly got used to sort of the size of the stage and the expansion of the audience. But what we'd really do, we didn't really look forward to playing on that stage because we figured that we were a club band. What we really looked forward to was like getting our bit out of the way and then watching those guys work. And we'd be hanging from rafters and we'd find little places that we get a good viewpoint and how they did it, and we'd watch everything, if they'd had video cameras in those days, then we'd have... Howard Jones, no one is to blame.
So what were some of the real influential records for you at that time?
Once they started coming, I just wait by the radio. Well, let's see. First, but all the Buddy Hollies of the first, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, of course, Bo Diddley, Eddie Cochran, and a lot of the doo-wop stuff,
Doo-wop, like that New York stuff?
Yeah, the harmonies, the vocals, and Earth Angel.
That's one that you haven't really, to my knowledge, you never really explored too much with the Stones, doo-wop. I mean, you went...
Nick can't hold a harmony.
We'll be right back with much more from Paul and Keith, including the story of the most famous Stones song, Satisfaction. Plus a brand new...
This is more of Friday Night Videos. How about that?
I couldn't have dreamed that one up.
You seem to have an uncanny talent for coming up with a simple riff and writing a song around the catchiest riff imaginable. And it becomes
Takes
like...
a simple game.
Is that what it is? Satisfaction, for instance. I mean, you can't, that thing will endure forever. Where does a thing like that...
I'll tell you where it comes from, and then I'll tell you how dumb I am by not recognizing them when they come. It's the first time I ever could afford them was in London to stay in a Hilton hotel, right? I mean, the London Hilton. And I'd got one of the early first cassette players, the little tiny jobs, the real sort of straight off the drawing board almost at that time. It's about 65, right? And I thought, well, this is a handy gadget, and so I had that, and I had the trusty old axe next to the bed, and I was asleep. And I mean, this is talking about how songs come. I mean, I just woke up in the middle of the night. Dun, 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 dun.
Middle of the night?
Yeah, middle of the night. Straight out of sleep. Pushed my record button. Put it down on tape. Must remember this, and listen to it over breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And I got maybe like one verse and the riff down, and anyway, the next day I wake up and the tape is like finished, So I order up my Hilton breakfast, it's a big deal for me at the time. And sheer luxury. And so I run it back and I push the button, and sure enough, there at the beginning is Satisfaction, And then there's 45 minutes of me snoring.
Hey, stick around. We got some great music and the story of Chuck Berry throwing Keith off stage when we come back.
So, you just recently were in Chicago playing with Chuck Berry, 25 years later.
Yeah, at last he allowed me.
Well, that must have been...
It was great. It was a few days ago, I mean, Chuck, he was my man, and I've had my ups and downs with Chuck over the years.
I've heard about this. Now, this is interesting because the guy who actually really influenced you to start playing guitar